I wanted to come on and talk about actually where I'm at right now on this weight loss journey. If you've been following me, you know that I actually have been taking Wegovy for about 5 months now. And I have actually had a very, very, very slow weight loss. So another thing it says, as we all know, with age comes hormonal changes. We know about the menopause, we know about men with the reduction of their testosterone, all those different factors that can impact our accumulation of fat as we have hormonal changes. So Lord help us, as we start thinking about this, and I'm starting behind the 8 ball right off the bat with this. I guess as I've gotten older, I wanted to revert back to how I was able to lose weight so quickly when I was in my 40s, and I was like, oh yeah, I could drop the weight and it wasn't no problem. And unbeknownst to me, even in this past year and a half plus, I could have actually slowed down my metabolism more than when I was on the Mounjaro over a year ago. So all these things that have come around could have been impacting me all along, and that's why I was not seeing as great a weight loss on the Wegovy. So as we know, with the hormonal changes, which I said, the menopause and reduced testosterone for men, which increases storage, especially fat around the midsection. So Zepbound advantage, and I want to keep going here. Zepbound advantage is it has broader effects on your energy regulation, which again carries back to what I was talking about previously about your actually energy expenditure, meaning that if you have less muscle mass, you have a tendency to not burn as much calories when you're in a rested state. So lower resting metabolic rate can actually carry over into your hormonal changes, which actually could be impacting increased storage of fat. So with that said, like I said, the Zepbound has a broader effect on energy regulation, and appetite might better address your hormonal weight gain patterns. So that's another reason why, again, this Zepbound could work greater. So another factor that could be age related, which doesn't necessarily have to be age, is insulin resistance. So we know that insulin resistance is a form of either pre-diabetes or a person that's diabetic. Insulin resistance can exist long before you're diagnosed as a pre-diabetic or a diabetic. Because what is happening is when you eat certain foods that is converted into glucose, your pancreas actually secretes insulin to help facilitate the glucose to go into your muscles, your cells, and your tissue for energy. And in some instances, if your muscles, your cells, and your tissues are not receiving the actual glucose for energy, it can be turned into fat. But a lot of people don't understand, and the reason why most people who are diabetic end up having to take insulin is because their pancreas is exhausted. It has exhausted itself, meaning this is why it's so crucial of what you're eating. What you eat does matter. I did a video on that too, because honestly, a lot of us are out here eating different foods and we don't know if we're diabetic or not. We don't know if we're pre-diabetic or not. I'm gonna tell you, when my doctor told me that I was a pre-diabetic, he really didn't give me a lot into the science of what I needed to do. He just said you need to lose weight, go on a diet, and exercise. But as I started researching it more, I realized, oh man, my pancreas is having to work a lot harder because of the state that my body is in right now, and my body is not able to facilitate the glucose as well as it needs to. So my pancreas is having to work. It's having to work really, really hard in order to help keep up. So then too, what you get is a state of your pancreas is putting out more insulin. I got to churn it out. I got to churn it out because you're eating a lot of high carbonated foods that are producing a lot of high glucose. You know, I wear a continuous glucose monitor. I tell you all the time, my doctor would not prescribe it for me because he said, I mean, you're a pre-diabetic, you're not a diabetic, you don't need it. But that's a whole nother story. I want to stick and stay focused. You know, I can get off on tangents, and this video is already going to be long, so I'm going to probably end up dividing it up in 2 sections. But insulin resistance can be contributory to why you're not losing the weight as readily or quickly when you're taking a Wegovy or a Zepbound or a Ozempic or Mounjaro. So it's already been proven that people who are diabetic would generally lose weight a lot slower than other people who are not diabetic on these medications. Now, I'm sure the jury is still out how this impacts people who are diabetic versus non-diabetic, how the weight loss goes quicker and different things like that. I'm sure studies will show it. A lot of the reasons of why the Ozempic and Mounjaro were turned into weight loss medications is they were seeing that people who were diabetic were losing weight at rates that had never been seen before. And of course, you know, in this world where everybody wants to be a little smaller, it was like, hey, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk saw a point where they could make more money and they converted it over. But you know, the jury is still out as to how this will impact those people. You can see that if you're not, don't have insulin resistance, if you're not pre-diabetic or diabetic, you could be losing weight a lot quicker. But for those of us like myself, who's a pre-diabetic, who's older, my insulin resistance can be impacting how fast I'm losing weight. And this goes back to why I say you should not be in a comparison game. You can get in trouble with that. Because when you see all these people talk about how they were dropping the weight so quickly, they were losing it so fast, and then if you're a case, you may be insulin resistant and you don't even know it, because honestly, insulin resistance can exist long before you even diagnose as a pre-diabetic, less more a diabetic, right? So you could actually be in a situation where your pancreas is having to secrete more insulin just to try to keep up. And then this is the reason why it's so important that you kind of monitor where you are and know where you are, because honestly, if I would not have done my research and just listened to my doctor, I would have kept eating like I was eating and I just would have reduced my calories, but reducing my calories would not have helped my insulin resistance. That's one of the things that I had to come around to, and thank God I did the research, because I was actually 1 point away from being a diabetic when he first diagnosed me. He says, you're 1 point away from being a diabetic. And then when I actually was able now to bring my A1C numbers down to 5.8, and anything less than a 5.7 is no longer considered to be a pre-diabetic, that's a game changer. But your doctors are really not telling you that. They're just telling you, oh, eat less, lose weight, go on a diet, lose weight. That's not the key factor for those of us who may be a pre-diabetic or those who may be diabetic, because even though you're reducing the calories, if you're eating high carb foods and you're a diabetic or pre-diabetic, you're actually increasing how much your pancreas has to work in order to be able to facilitate the glucose in your system. That's a whole nother subject. We'll get into it later. So insulin resistance does impact weight loss. But the good news is Wegovy and Zepbound actually have been proven to improve your insulin sensitivity. That's another thing that people talk about, is insulin resistance versus insulin sensitivity. When you're able to start controlling how much insulin your pancreas is having to secrete, you can actually increase your insulin sensitivity by the types of foods that you're eating. So that's a whole nother subject. We'll talk about it later. But again, being older, people who are older generally have a tendency to have insulin resistance. Not all people, I said, but generally as you get older, you can have increased insulin resistance. Another thing is activity level. Well, when they said that your activity, by being older, your activity level could impact you, I kind of threw that to the wind, because I'm like, well, I'm working out 3 to 5 days a week, so that shouldn't make a difference. But for those of you who may be older and you're seeing a slower response to Wegovy, Ozempic, Saxanda, Mounjaro, Zepbound, your inactivity could be impacting your weight loss, which we already know that. Okay, so even with this drug, they tell you you have to do lifestyle changes in order to see a benefit. And one of those things is you got to do combined nutrition and activity in order to see a greater weight loss. If you just take the shot, now some people are totally different. Like I said, everybody is different. Sometimes if you just take the shot, you may not see a weight loss if you're not being active and if you're not changing your diet. That's just normal. And so it says both Wegovy and Zepbound regulate appetite hormones, but Zepbound is a multi-hormonal approach. Meaning, this is why I should see hopefully a greater weight loss, and maybe why I saw a greater weight loss on Mounjaro, now Zepbound, than I did see on the Wegovy. So that's another thing that I'm hoping. Now, another thing they talked about was slower digestion. And I know this is getting really long, and I'm gonna figure out where to cut this, and I may have cut it already, and you might be on part 2 now, but slower digestion. Wow. As you get older, your digestion slows down, meaning you actually digest foods slower. And I remember my grandmother used to say, oh, I'm not going to eat such and such and such because, you know, I'm having some digestion problems. Well, as we get older, our digestion can slow down. Well, with that being said, it's giving us a long feeling of being full. Well, think about it. When you take Wegovy or Zepbound or Ozempic or Mounjaro, it has an appetite suppressant. So here you are with the actual slower digestion, and now you're taking a medication that's slowing down your digestion a little even further. That's a whole nother factor that we don't even really think about. So then you could also have what they call, and doesn't matter of age, medications could be impacting your slower weight loss on these weight loss drugs. Your medications could be actually cross-correlating. And let me go a little step further. I did a video about supplements. Supplements can impact your weight loss journey. It's not just medications, but there are certain medications that could be impacting your weight loss journey. Another thing is coexisting health conditions. So if you're older, you could have arthritis, you could have heart disease, you could have diabetes, which I've been hitting on that really, really hard. But all these things can impact your weight loss. So for those of us who may be a little older and we're not seeing as strong a weight loss, and I would say even those who are not even, this is not even age related, because some of this stuff is not even age related. Medications, activity, all these things could be impacting you even if you're not over 50. But I really want to do the research to find out what could possibly be impacting me and why I did not see as great a weight loss on the Wegovy that I saw on the Mounjaro. So coexisting health conditions could be impacting your weight loss. Then it says it could be also, and this is number 10, the last one, it says psychological or emotional eating factors. Whew, that's a whole nother video, right? Because honestly, I did not realize until I started this weight loss journey that I'm a stress eater, which is an emotional thing. When I'm stressed, I want something good to eat. I did another video talking about how I drove through a drive-through one day a couple of weeks ago, when it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I ended up getting a 2-piece box of chicken, and I felt so much better. And honestly, it was so funny to me because I'm like, why did I feel much better? Because I'm a stress eater. And honestly, in my old lifestyle, going through the drive-through, getting food that I thought was, you know, satiating and good for me, and it wasn't good for me, but getting food that I felt like gave me pleasure actually helped me relieve that stress just a little bit because I'm a stress eater. So it talks about emotional and stress eating can make your weight loss journey more challenging. Because even with taking this drug, right, you can actually still be dealing with the emotions and the mental challenges. I think I had another young lady that I was following or watching her video and was talking about some people that she was interacting with, and they were talking about the mental game, right? It's a mind game, right? So there could be some certain factors, even not age. This is one of those ones I'd say is not necessarily totally age related. Your psychological and emotional eating factors that could impact your weight, your psychological and your emotional impact that could be impacting your weight loss is not age related. I think it could impact anybody. So in this case, it says a solution in some instances, it may be beneficial to combine this weight loss medication with some type of seeing a dietitian or actually working with someone to talk about your mental psychological challenges being on this. And I have seen quite a few people say that they're seeing therapists while they're taking this drug, that they're talking through some of the things that may be their triggers for why they are doing what they're doing. But I really thought that this information was really good information because, you know, sometimes we could be beating ourselves up so much and we don't realize there are other factors working against us. You know what I mean? This has been the whole challenge about this with this weight loss and people trying to make you feel like, oh, you're just not strong enough. You just need to do this. You just need to do this. And if you were strong, you would have done lost the weight. No, we're finding out, we know there's so many other factors that can impact those of us who are on this weight loss journey. And even with this, a greater factor could be our age. And that could be impacting us on this weight loss journey. So again, I'm excited that I'm about to start part 2 of my journey on Zepbound. I want to say my doctor decided to put me on the 5 and not go any higher, only because she said a lot of people think because they're doing the Wegovy, they think, oh, I'm already on a high dose on Wegovy, I can automatically jump to a high dose on the Zepbound. She was like, absolutely not, because Zepbound, as I noted earlier, is a multi-factor medication versus Wegovy is just the GLP-1. And she said she wanted me, especially since I had that run-in when I had increased the dosage, which we found out it probably was not the dosage, but something else I ate or whatever. But she was like, no, we're going to take it slow. She understood. Actually, I was like, hey, you can start me out at the 2.5. And she's like, no, I think we're good to start at the 5. So I'm starting on the 5. I will keep you posted. I think this will make this week 20 for me. So I actually had 1 shot left of the actual Wegovy 1 milligram, and I'm telling y'all, I'm so excited about getting on the Zepbound that I'm just skipping that last shot on the Wegovy and I'm going straight in to the Zepbound. So week 20, I'll give you an update on how I do with this first week injection. And then I also want to tell you something else that I came across, and let me find it right quick. Again, thank you for your patience and staying on deck with me with this, because I really thought this was some good information that we're learning that, hey, you sometimes are blaming yourself for why you're having such a slow weight loss, but it could be other factors that are impacting you. So when I looked at here, it says key takeaways. If you're seeking enhanced weight loss, Mounjaro and or Zepbound can help your metabolic flexibility. That's a whole nother subject because I did do some research on that. And it has additional benefits like muscle preservation. Ooh, I was really kind of curious about that because muscle preservation, they're trying to say Mounjaro may help more with muscle preservation than the Wegovy. That's a whole nother factor of something we have to talk about later that I thought was good information. And what else did they have here I wanted to see? So it says, who could benefit most from Zepbound? Individuals with severe obesity greater than 30, BMI greater than 30, people with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and pre-diabetes. So this off the off the gate is telling me I'm going to potentially benefit more with the Zepbound. And those who have struggled with other weight loss treatments or have complex metabolic challenges. And as you can see, what I just said, your age brings on a whole nother gamut of challenges that you may be going through while you're on this weight loss journey. So just want to give you an update where I'm at today. I'll give you an update for week 20 on how much weight I lost on the first shot next week. And again, I want to say, life is too short not to live. So let go, whatever is making you stop, and we'll see who's going to be the winner, or if there is a winner. I don't know if I can say it or not, but we'll see if the Zepbound is going to help me have a greater impact for my weight loss than the Wegovy. And I'll talk to you later. So another thing it says, as we all know, with age comes hormonal changes.